We are April and Scott, creators of NaughtyGym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships, and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. Welcome back to the Naughty Gym Show. I'm your host, April, and this is my sweet, sweet co-host, Scott.
I thought you had something.
I did. That's the best I could do. It's not untrue. And we are here today with our very special friend.
Our sweet, sweet friend.
Our sweet, sweet friend, Roderick. You may know him from Open, A Journey Through Love, the documentary that he has created that hopefully will be coming out soon. I know they've done some early release kind of viewings and stuff all over the country over the last year. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to go to his social media, Open A Journey Through Love, on TikTok and Instagram, and check it out.
Roderick, welcome back to the show.
Thank you again.
Your second time, I think, right?
Sort of third, because we did the first one twice.
Oh, that's right.
Because I can't remember. We had some kind of technical issue. And we had to do it over again.
Who knows? And that was fairly early on in our journey where we're still not very tech savvy, but back then we were horrible. So you're here. So you're at a house because you were driving through and stopped by. I think you were delivering a pet to someone.
I was. I delivered 2 dogs and 2 cats for my daughter's pet relocation business.
I love that.
Well, so we decided to take advantage of the fact that you're here, not to talk about the documentary much, even though, again, we encourage everybody to look it up. We hope it's going to get picked up by one of the major streaming services at some point, but it does a great job highlighting the benefits of non-monogamy. But what we want to talk about is Roderick and I share possibly, I don't know if I'm supposed to say a condition.
A feature.
A feature. Yeah, I like that.
This episode is going to be about neurodivergence in non-monogamy. All right. And have you ever been officially diagnosed?
I have. And in fact, it's interesting that you put that way because we talk a lot about neurodivergency in the world with regard to autism and ADHD as an example. In my case, I was diagnosed with autism, but I don't really consider it neurodivergent anymore. To be honest, I think, first of all, a lot more people are somewhere on the spectrum than we think.
I agree.
And I think rather than seeing it as there's normal and then there's this slice of people that think a certain way, no, I think as humans, we process information in different ways, and this is just one of them.
I would agree, though, that I think everybody in some capacity is on the spectrum.
You know, we all have different aspects of us that process information a certain way. And I think those of us that maybe get a diagnosis, it's just there happens to be more things that we process that. You know?
Well, and I have not been diagnosed with it except by April.
And your mother.
And my mother. Neither one of those count.
Your mother did work with children and diagnosing them with autism.
Yeah, but I still don't have a lot of faith in that. But so April will be coming at this, having experience living with me through non-monogamy, and maybe that's different than living with somebody else. I don't know, but I don't really feel that much different than anybody else, and I don't know if anybody would identify easily me as having some neurodivergency. I'm not sure. I don't know. But we do want to talk about this today because I think I grew up thinking that 1 in 5,000 people might have autism or some neurodivergency. It was very rare in my head. And like you say, maybe everybody's somewhere on the spectrum.
Something, yeah.
And maybe it's just, issues of variance of degree as opposed to you've got it, I don't. Type of thing. But we do want to talk about how people that do have neurodivergency experience some of the highs and lows of non-monogamy differently, because it's not going to be something that we experience things in the exact same way. Now that goes for everybody, whether you're neurodivergent or not, but it could really come into play with somebody like us that maybe thinks a little bit differently than the average person. So we've got some very direct questions we're going to ask, but just from a very top-down view, in a synopsis sort of way, what do you think is different for you as somebody who has been diagnosed with autism in the way you experience the emotions of non-monogamous relationships?
Right. So first of all, I believe there has been a study, that has demonstrated that people in alternative relationship styles like open relationships, lifestyle, polyamory tend to be more neurodivergent. There is a higher proportion of neurodivergent people in ethical non-monogamy than in.
Oh, that's interesting.
And when you think about it, it makes sense because the point is we think a little differently. That's part of the thing. If you're more of a rigid thinker, you're probably less likely to step out of societal norms. So I find that interesting. Something that I've noticed, I went to help set up a what was it called? DomCom in Los Angeles, a big, Dom sub conference of sorts. And I noticed while I was there that it was, everyone there is either has purple hair or they're in a wheelchair or they're missing a limb or they have extreme social anxiety. I mean, it's a lot of sort of misfits. And I feel like now that's more the kink space, but I think there's some overlap there. I feel like there's a lot of us that don't feel like we fit in, that we fit in this community full of people that don't feel like they fit in. And non-monogamy, I think, can kind of encapsulate that.
There's a show that April and I have watched.
Love on the Spectrum.
Love on the Spectrum.
Oh my gosh.
Love on the Spectrum.
If you haven't
so
seen
good.
it, you need to watch it. It's
so good.
It is funny. It's endearing. It's just a fantastic show.
Get a box of tissues.
Yeah. For sure.
But I would say that the people on that show are more on the one end of the spectrum. That they're more of an extreme version of autism. If I have it, or if you have it, it's much harder to identify that in us than it would be the people on that show. But still, you experience flirting, conversations, your interpretations of what people are saying in a different way than somebody who doesn't maybe fall far on that spectrum. Has there been what's the most autistically cringeworthy situation you found yourself in that you think you could blame on your difference of processing information?
I mean, I do have a couple of things that come to mind. With Love on the Spectrum, I got to say, watching that show literally helped me learn about myself because I was watching things they would do and I would be like, that's just a really raw version of what's going on inside of me. I'm just a little more socially adept to where I can make that work.
Right.
And so a good example is, I can't remember their names anymore, but there's the young woman who, has her own business now. I think she's at least partially Asian, if I recall correctly. And she lives with her aunt and uncle. And she's the one she's really looking forward to being romantic all this stuff.
Yes.
I know who you're talking
Teaching
about.
the guy how to kiss.
Yes.
Right. Well, she's saying things that most of us in most social circles would consider mean or rude.
Right.
But she's not trying to be rude. She's literally giving you the information. That's something that I struggle with. There will be a lot of things that I'm trying to convey that I think I'm just conveying information. And then I'll find out that it's hurtful to some. Like there's all these different ways to interpret it, whereas I'm going, I just thought it was information. And that's what I saw with her. One of the things you'll find with a lot of people with autism is that they'll be really good at some things and then really clueless about often very basic things. And you see some of that in that show.
April, would you say that about me?
Yeah. Well, there's just certain nuances with like social awareness, right? And how you're perceived by other people. Because like you said, when you're processing information, it's going to come out as information.
Yeah.
And there's no real feelings behind it most of the time. And so the person receiving that can sometimes be offended because they have feelings.
They're taking it personally.
Right.
With one of the things that's misunderstood about autism, it's a lot of people think they aren't experiencing as many emotions when no, it's more about they may not understand how to convey them. In my case, I experience a lot of emotions and I experience them very deeply. And fortunately, I'm pretty good at expressing them. But, this is a minor thing. But yes, I really struggle with social cues. So in Jamaica, as an example, this last year, several times I would say something to somebody and they'd put their hand up to give me a high five and I would grab their hand and then our friends from New Zealand were in the pool and I grabbed her hand and she says, "That's a high five, Rod." I know that. I know. Well, I got to go. I got Wapner at 4:00. Yeah. So it can be a little different. So that's where I would say people with autism, probably the biggest struggle, and it's a struggle that most of us share. I just think it's a little more acute, is understanding social cues. Understand that the nuance is really, in my case, what I feel like is I don't have an outgoing filter, which is why I talk so much. It's why I'm Mr. TMI,
I feel like that can also be a superpower, though.
Absolutely.
And especially in the lifestyle when, for me, I need the information.
Yes.
Especially if it's going to move to a
direct
play, I would rather get that information direct than somebody kind of beat around the bush and hem and haw. So, and maybe that's another reason why there's more in non-monogamy and stuff, is because it's respected to have that open communication where you can just, this is what I want, this is what I like, this is what I don't like.
Well, have you ever had somebody either flirting with you and you didn't realize it, or they weren't flirting with you, but you thought they were, and you could, in a way that you might think would be blamed on autism?
The latter, no, largely because of my own anxiety about such thing. I would never misinterpret in that direction. Yeah, again, back to Jamaica. I love dancing. I was out there dancing my ass off, and several women would be dancing with me. And then one of them, who we'll see in November, got sick of waiting for me and said, "May I touch you?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was just like, you have to smack me in the face with it, or else I don't know what's going on. And then once I said yes, and she did, well, then we had lots of fun on the dance floor.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's that initial thing, that initial barrier that many people struggle with.
Yeah.
That's a common thing. But I just think for a lot of people with autism, it's like, see what's happened.
Yeah, because a lot of times especially if you've known it your whole life, you've probably been told that it's going to be more difficult for you to pick up on subtlety, on nuance, on less than direct statements.
Yeah.
And so you probably live in this world where you think, I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. So the safe play in that situation is to just hands behind your back, be very careful with your words. And it's not an easy thing, because that's something all of us experience to some extent. There's times where I'm talking to somebody and I'm going, seems like she might be flirting, but I don't want to jump to any conclusions here. So stuff your hands in your pockets and don't say anything creepy. But April, you've said, do you see that in me, or do you think I'm good at picking up on cues or not?
50-50. I mean, we've had conversations several times where you're like, they weren't flirting with me. And I'm like, Scott, I mean.
Your dick was in their mouth.
Right. Yeah.
He was going, give it to me right now. You're like, but do you mean a slice of
You're like,
cake?
no, she was just being nice. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, what I'm curious to know, because I know a lot of times people who are on the spectrum have sensory issues, and lifestyle events can be super overstimulating. It's loud. There's flashing lights. There's so many people, loud noises. Have you dealt with any of that? And what are some things you could suggest for people who may be going into a situation like that to kind of self-regulate?
I mean, one of the things so first of all, I'm sitting here right now because I discovered early on that this community was more receptive to me, because I'm a lot, and I know that I have a very big energy and personality. It's taken me years to learn that, but I get that now. I get that I'm a very big person and all this kind of stuff. And it's been uncomfortable out in the world.
Yeah, you are a big person. I'm looking at the screen. I'm trying to sit taller.
Exactly. And I'm like hunching over because I didn't think about the fact that this is a little taller.
That's what it is.
Oh, we should have switched.
Yeah, I should have been given the tall chair.
No, sit tall.
That's right. So yeah, I am here because I feel like this community is more open to the fact that I'm gonna if you meet me 10 minutes from now, you're going to really know me, because that's just how I am. And not only are people more receptive to that, but I've found more people willing to reciprocate that and tell me who they really are. And so here's one of my things about autism is I feel like I'm very sensitive to people not being truly authentic. Even if I don't know can't articulate that what's happening, I'm very sensitive to it. It's taken me a long time to understand that. And I think that's the point, is I've found, I feel comfortable around all these people, because not all these people. The E&M community is full of human beings, which means there are assholes and manipulators and all this stuff. But I find a higher proportion of people who are willing to truly be themselves with me.
Yeah, but do you suffer from the sensory, like the loud noises bother you or any of that kind of stuff?
Not so much the loud noise thing. I used to get very overwhelmed by people. Fortunately, I have a gift of being able to tune out the world. I'm really good at being able to just disappear into my head. It's worked against me and for me, like most things. But I have been overwhelmed by people, and I've had to learn. And this is, comes back to what we were talking about with body and nervous system, is we have to learn how to stop and close our eyes and take deep breaths and, walk away, get away from the situation for a little bit to kind of regroup.
Well, if the sensory stuff isn't as big an issue, is there anything that you do dread or avoid when you go to some of these like lifestyle events? Is it things that, in the lead up prior to it, you're thinking, oh God, I need to make sure I do this or don't do that, or this person's coming, I don't know how I react around them. Are there any of those kind of dreads that come up?
The closest thing for me, and it seems to have relaxed in the last year, I think, is it used to be every time I went to an event or a resort or a hotel takeover, let's say it was a longer event, like a 3 to 5 day event, it would take the first almost 24 hours of me just sort of being in a deer in headlights until I got the lay of the land. And not just the layout of the resort. It was just, I have to feel like I understand what this world is, where some of it was geography, some of it was, where are all the exits, kind of a thing. But every time, and years into it, I'd be going, man, I'm feeling that thing again. I'm like almost defensive. Like, just give me some space till I figure out where I'm at. And I would be disappointed for a while. I'd be like, why aren't I comfortable with this yet? And I seem to be, I think some of that was also because I felt responsible for a partner.
Sure.
Whereas like I'm by myself now. So I'm it's a different anxiety.
Right.
So.
April, do you think, I know we joke, I have not been diagnosed with it, but there's signs, right? Mm-hmm. But what do you see from me at a lifestyle event that you think, is there anything in particular that the way I act or handle myself, you go, that's why I think he has autism?
No, I mean, not really. Just some social cues, but I think most people see those things as endearing. And even I do, but they don't know. They wouldn't know because they don't live with you.
Like what?
Just some social awareness things, like things that you might say, or like not knowing if somebody's flirting with you. I mean, they're just small things. I mean, it doesn't show up as much in the lifestyle space as it does like at home or watching chess games on YouTube or listening to a chess game.
I mean, I will tell you some things that I sort of identify in you that seem like they fall into that category. One is, so one of the hallmarks of autism is binary thinking. Everything's very this or that and not much gray in between. So like for me, I've had to learn to teach myself. Nothing in life is binary, but it's also what causes that intense focus on trying to find a proof to this theory. As an example.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can focus.
I can get a hyper obsessed or hyper focused on a singular thing only though if it has my attention. Like, in other words, it would be a superpower if I could focus like that on any task given to me.
Yeah, you do. You fixate like
and that could be more
ADHD
than autism.
Right.
And you've seen that countless times, that if something grabs my attention, it's not just that it's easy for me to focus on it. It's hard for me not to focus on it.
Yeah.
It becomes
you can't focus on anything else.
Yeah, that's right. And even if it's something that is completely useless to our life or our lifestyle or anything, I can just get hung up on it.
Yeah.
Have you ever needed to bail or leave an event or a party or something because of the sensory? I know you said sensory is not a big thing, but of any kind of overwhelm of some kind?
I mean, I went to a party with a community that I've been a part of for a long time. But I went to this one house party that had 120 people, and I knew 2 of them. And yeah, I got pretty overwhelmed. It wasn't an enjoyable evening. I had to leave. Now, one of the things I like hotel takeovers. I need days. A party just doesn't do it for me. I need days to spend time with people.
Well, you said that when you first get to an event, sometimes it takes you for the first 24 hours just to kind of get settled. And
like El Salvador, not as much, because I already feel like, oh, this is my home group.
Right.
So there's people here I know that I'm comfortable with.
Right.
Tim and Maria were going to be there. They've been anchors for me through all of this.
Yeah.
You guys and Matt and Cara. And that's part of the point for me, is that I really gravitate towards these communities where I feel like I understand what the tone is. Whereas I went to that party and I'm like,
what do they want? Yeah, what do they want?
And then I'm part of the We Got a Thing community, and it's like the We Got a Thing community. Sure, again, there's lots of variety because it's got hundreds of people in it, but there's a particular tone because it's based on this podcast that has a particular tone.
Yeah.
And,
you experience that too.
I do.
Right? Overwhelm and stuff. Especially leading up to an event.
Yeah, I get a lot of social anxiety and anxiety leading up to an event.
So what is the difference? Like, what is,
I wouldn't doubt if I'm on the spectrum in some capacity.
And it's funny too.
Because I have a very small social battery. Like, it wears out very quickly. I schedule my nap time. Like, when we're a week at Hito, we build into the itinerary time for me to get away every day so that I can recharge, regroup, even if it's just going to my room for an hour or two and just sitting by myself. Just to whoosah.
Well, so Roderick, do you think that the flirting? Well, I'm going to answer this question too after I ask it.
Yeah.
I want you to answer it first. Do you think the flirting in the lifestyle is more difficult for you because of the autism?
yes and no. It is because I question whether I'm seeing flirting, and then here's one way of describing it: strip clubs have never appealed to me because I go there and it's like, yeah, but she's not getting undressed for me. She and I are not going to go have sex, so what do I care? Like, it's that kind of binary sort of thing. So when I'm with someone, we're flirting, there's a part of me going, are we going somewhere with this? Whereas a lot of people just like to flirt. And so then I can get confused about, are we supposed to be doing something? On the other hand, or are we getting married next? Or what's the next step? And so, but then the other part of that is, the part that I enjoy is the fact that it's so open. You can just, if you have to, just say, listen, I would love to go play with you. Is that what we can be direct. And it's not this shocking what? I mean, you can have somebody walk up and say, hey, you want to go get a pizza and fuck? Yeah. And you might be like, no, thanks. But you're not going to be like calling the police. We know these conversations are had.
I resonate with that because I think April's always accused me of being a constant, but I don't recognize.
Not accused. I mean, I'm just identifying,
clarifying
the fact. But I don't. A lot of times when she says, I was like, "What are you talking about? I hadn't flirted all night." Yeah, you were just over there. And so there's things that I do that I don't recognize as flirting. I'm not saying I don't ever recognize that I'm flirting.
Right.
But a lot of times I don't recognize it.
So in some sense, I think if I have autism, it does help me because I don't even know.
You're not aware that
I'm not intentionally, like a lot of times the nerves will come into play on anything that you're doing because you're anticipating the outcomes and how this could go wrong and all that kind of stuff. Well, if I don't know that's what I'm doing, I'm just shooting in the dark.
And this hasn't happened a lot, but it has happened a couple times where you are flirting, but you're not reading the room. And so you're not seeing the other people's reaction or her husband's reaction. And I'm watching all of it. And I'm like, ooh, her husband is not happy with this. Scott needs to stop. And he'll just keep on because he has no idea. And I'm like, I'm hyper vigilant.
Yeah,
and so I'm like,
whatever I am.
Relax. And he has
to and I'm going, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
But eventually I will, like, if the conversation is going well, and because I'm like you, I can look at somebody and appreciate, oh, they're super hot. But I need the conversation. I need to get to know them a little bit. And at some point, if that conversation is going well, even if I'm not maybe consciously aware that I'm flirting, I will become consciously aware that, okay, now I want to flirt. And I will get fairly direct at that point.
but that's a process for me. And I don't always realize when it has started.
I'm real grateful for someone that we all know who's also neurodivergent, who in a recent situation, I was very unexpressive because I was just processing stuff that I was thinking about. And I was not sending out any signals at all in any direction. And yet at a certain point, this person said, all right, well, it's 8:00. Do you want to play? And I was like, yes, I do. Thank you. And thank you for not being deterred by the fact that I can't even pretend I'm interested, because I am. I just can't pretend. I can't. Like, I'm just such a weird place. But once we get going, I'm physically going to show up.
You know, it's funny. Like, if maybe we should just wear tags and say we're autistic, be direct.
I had buttons in El Salvador, and I'll be wearing them in November.
I love it.
It says I have autism and sorry. But anyway, what?
You can say that on the show.
Wait a minute, you had a button that said I have autism.
I have autism and a sizable cock.
Maybe I don't see that.
Yeah.
Did you show it to me?
I know you saw that one.
Yeah, I did.
I remember you looked down and you went like,
I need one for Scott.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
I got extras.
Yeah, I want one just to trick people into thinking.
Don't look at it. I got work to do.
Just look, I got one of these. It's up to you to guess which one.
Right.
All right. Well, so do you think that, and this may be a yes or no, or yes and no also, but
Do you think the autism makes you a better lover?
Never thought about why I'm so good at it. But, you know, there's maybe something to that. I mean, here's the funny thing, because, like, what does it take to be good at it? Because I kept hearing certain things and I'd be like, you mean all men don't do this? What am I doing? I just really enjoy it. And I'm very passionate and I use my whole body and I ask questions and I want to know, what is she like? And, you know, so it's like, why wouldn't everyone do this? How much of that is autism? You know, I think maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think for some it could be yes, and some it could be no. For some, like Rod, who communicates, and you're going to say what it is that you want.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask them directly, what is it that you want? What don't you like? What do you like? What can we do? What can't we do?
Yeah.
That is the recipe for a good play session. Yeah. And then on the other side, there are some people who are neurodivergent who don't know can't speak up in a play session and express their boundaries out of fear, or, you know, they don't know how to communicate those clearly.
Yeah, because we do say that a lot, right? Like, I've heard men and women both say, I wish people would be clearer with me about what they be direct and not beat around the bush about it. And maybe autistic people, that's a superpower of theirs. I'm going to be very direct because I don't know how to not be direct.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying all, but that, because that's one thing I do. Like, if we're going to be in a play session, I'm going to have some long conversations with the person because I want to know, you know, do you like some women like being fingered? Some don't.
Right.
And you just could go in there thinking you're the best fingerer.
Right.
Finger banger.
I mean, just women like different. You know, and it's just better to just ask and find out. And one of the things that I'm not sure if this is autism or not, but one of the things I enjoy doing is just being super open and welcoming about the whole process. So, for instance, I use Trimix. And first of all, I'm very upfront about that. I mean, I don't always use it, but especially in these situations, I use it more prevalently. Yeah. And I'll even be like, do you want to watch? Like, are you interested in this? And some people don't. And some people are like, yeah.
April does not want to watch that process.
I don't want to watch needles ever.
Right. See, some people are like my previous partner did not want to see it. Whereas, for instance, a recent person who, again, we both know, who has worked in adult film, wasn't familiar with it. And I thought for sure it would be a common thing in her work. And she was just really pleased that I sat there and showed her how it works.
That's not. I assumed all porn guys use that. Is that not true? Or
here's the difference. She thinks they probably do. They just are ashamed and don't talk about it.
Oh, wow.
Whereas we are open about this thing.
That's why.
And that's one of the things. So she comes from that world. This is all new to her. This whole community is new to her, and she's going.
It's open communication.
Well, just by the way, for anybody listening that doesn't know, Trimix is an injection. Yes. It's an injection you put directly into your dick. And you're going to be hard for 2 or 3 hours. I don't care if you go run a 5K.
Yeah, but you can get it from your urologist.
Yeah, it's
right?
a prescription medication. But one of the nice things about it is when you get into non-monogamy, you think, if you've never been in it, oh, I'm going to get to have sex with other hot people. I'm not going to have a problem with getting an erection. But it is very, very common in non-monogamy because it's nerve-wracking, especially at first. Like you get put in all these different situations that you've never experienced in your life. And yes, it's exciting. Yes, it's a turn on. But the newness of those situations, especially if you're starting to get a little older, maybe 40 and up or something, 53. Yeah. Sometimes that can happen when it's something new and exciting, but you're in your head like, well, is my wife okay with this? Is the other wife okay with this? Is the other man okay with what I'm doing with his wife? And you got all these thoughts going through your head, and nothing is a boner killer more than your brain.
Absolutely.
Try make short circuits.
It just helps, right?
Yeah,
but don't use it without a prescription because it can also be dangerous if you don't have it dosed right.
Don't listen to your buddy that walks up and says, "This is my dose." It's a big dose, but you'll be fine because you could end up in the hospital. You want to start very small, but this is not a try mix episode, but I thought I would mention that. Compersion is often considered sort of the opposite of jealousy. Right. I'm not sure that's exactly correct because I think compersion and jealousy can happen at the same time. But compersion is the feeling of excitement and joy, seeing the excitement and joy from your partner, especially when it's not involving you. For instance, if you watch your partner have sex with somebody else and can tell they're really loving it and you're experiencing joy from watching them love that, that's compersion. Mm-hmm. But you can also have compersion watching that and experience jealousy. So I don't know that they're exactly the opposite, but
agreed.
In that interplay of those two things, jealousy and compersion, do you think the autism helps, hurts, is indifferent? How does that work?
In my case, I'm pretty sure this is an autism thing. One of the things that I experience that's interesting is that my understanding of things doesn't tend to move like this and gradually change. It tends to be dip switches. I don't get it. I get it. It's very black and white. Yeah. It's binary. And so thus far, I've never experienced jealousy. Not never. That's not what I mean. In the context of since learning about E&M and being a part of this community, I have never experienced it. Let me think about that. I have in slight ways when it comes to other people interacting, maybe like friends with other friends, and I want to be a part of that or something. A little bit of that.
Sure. And that may be envy sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm sort of vague.
But let me tell you why I asked this. Because we had a conversation April and I did the other day, and I think it surprised her because I don't typically express to her that I'm feeling jealous sometimes. Because most of the time, if I see her having fun with a man or a woman, I feel some level of compersion. But I would say probably every time, but for sure, almost every time. Mm-hmm. I've also experienced some degree of jealousy. Now, depending on the situation, that degree of jealousy may be very low, or it could be higher along with that compersion. But it's a very interesting thing to, at one, you're experiencing jealousy over here, but you're also super happy she's having fun and loving what's going on. Mm-hmm. That has always been a weird experience for me. It's not something I ever experienced that I can remember prior to being non-monogamous. But I think it's important to note that for people, whether you're neurodivergent or not, if you're non-monogamous, you're going to experience some level of jealousy. But the reason I asked this is because I've known you enough and heard you say things like, when I see my partner experiencing joy, I have nuclear compersion. Is the thing I've heard you say.
And that's where I think, in my case, maybe the autism has played a role because for me, what I also find interesting about it is that the compersion is really widespread for me. The first time I watched my partner playing with a guy, on our way there, I was telling her, listen, I don't want you to think at all about what I'm experiencing because I at least know that even if I feel something negative, I'll be good to get through this and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But still, I don't know what to expect. I know I have really high compersion, but let's see. So we played, I had all the same compersion. And then when we had done 2 rounds and then they were like cuddling and she was like cuddling with him and caressing him and doing just that natural stuff that comes to us. And I was just melting. I remember then later thinking back about, because one of the things I can do is I can really break my emotions down into sections. How much of it is about this? How much I can literally almost give you percentages, and I could feel the titillation of what was happening. I felt the compersion of just seeing how much joy and pleasure she was having. I felt this other thing that's related to that, where it's like she's so comfortable knowing that I'm comfortable with things that she's just letting herself feel natural.
That's the part I lean into. It feels empowering to know that I have the emotional strength to enjoy watching her enjoy this. And she knows it.
And she knows it.
She
That
can
was the
lean
part
into
that
it.
really hit me.
Yeah.
But then I was like, also feel compersion for him. Like I was really enjoying how, but this couple that I recently played with, because she was very blunt with me. We all played. It's the first time I've played with a couple. First time they played with a single person. And then kind of once I was done, I just sat and watched them keep going for a while. And it was really, especially because again, I'm kind of in a weird place in my life right now, to be able to sit there and really enjoy it. I felt that compersion for them. I just kept looking at the two of them, and they could feel that. They were really enjoying that. And
so April, like, I think Roderick experiences compersion probably at a higher level than I do, but I do experience it. Mm-hmm. Is that difficult for you to understand? Like, when, because I don't think it comes as easily to you.
What, compersion?
I was going to ask.
No, I felt compersion several times,
but not as easily or as often, maybe, as you think.
Yeah, I don't think it comes as easy.
Mm-hmm. So is that confusing to you when you hear people, like, especially Roderick's version of it?
It's not confusing. I think I would love to be like that. I would love to feel really compersion more, but I think I've felt it more and more the longer we've been in this. Absolutely. Because I can identify when I feel jealousy. I can identify quicker what it is and how I can resolve it or move through it a little bit quicker than I used to.
Well, I'll shift gears here a little bit. Roderick, you've been, like, when you've come to our event at Hito in Jamaica, Be Better Being Bad, you've come there and done a lot of film work and video work for us so that we can use it for promotional stuff. I'm curious that when you're behind the camera and you're seeing me or her or other people at the event flirting, engaging, interacting with people there, do you think that you can identify it from behind the camera, that this person is likely neurodivergent, autism? Does the camera matter at all?
I think it's easier for me to identify in person because of all the nuance. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's easier. I think, even through the camera, there will be a lot of times that I can see behaviors that make me think, oh, there's another one of us.
Well, do you think that do you think viewing your footage when you're editing and putting stuff together through your autism lens, which you can't help to some extent, do you think that affects the way you edit the footage?
Meaning specifically how I might interpret other people?
Yeah, like, for instance, like when I'm editing a podcast, I want to try to put everybody in the best light possible. Mm-hmm. Like some of it, like I just said, like 3 times right there in 10 seconds. I'm going to try to edit that out so that I don't sound as dumb as I actually am.
Right.
And other, sometimes guests do stuff like that and they may fumble over their words because they're nervous. I'm going to edit that out. Do you think you see any of that from behind the camera ever?
Oh, now in my case, because I'm an editor. I mean, I'm a filmmaker. I love all aspects of filmmaking, but editing is one of my favorites. And for years, even when I was working full-time as a cinematographer, I mean, that's part of what made me a good cinematographer, was that I understood exactly how this needed to be edited or could be edited. So I'm very conscious all the time of how people, like, I'm editing while people are talking. I'll be sitting there going, I didn't quite finish that thought, but then I'll keep listening. Okay, I can add that onto that. So, okay, I've got the thought, Yeah. And maybe that's autism that's helping me do that. I don't really know.
Well, so what would be shocking for people, for you, if somebody could live inside your brain for a few minutes? What do you think is drastically different about the way you view these parties, non-monogamous events? What would shock people, you think, about the way you view these situations versus the way maybe somebody not as far along the spectrum as you are?
So a couple of things come to mind. One thing I want to say back to something you said a minute ago, when you were talking about the jealousy and compersion, I would propose, for instance, I wonder how much of the compersion is mental, emotional thought that you're having, and how much of the jealousy is this nervous system reaction that doesn't necessarily coordinate with the thoughts, where it's just something that's in your system that can be healed or not. It doesn't, but just something I happen to think of.
Well, I think it's a great point, because I think jealousy is
it's a self-preservation.
Yeah, it's built into our DNA, to try to protect our ability to mate and to pass down our DNA and our offspring and stuff. Compersion is not genetically.
That's like a
learned.
Yeah.
You have to learn that. You have to want to learn that.
I know I've had compersion since I was very young. I didn't know that.
Right. But you can recognize
when I was
that's
married, I used to tell my wife at the time, and I'm early 20s and super shy and conservative. I mean, like just a shy, scared little boy. And I enjoyed telling my wife little fantasies about her having sex with somebody else. And I just thought I was a weirdo for being turned on by that. And then like 30 years later, I'm like, oh, that's called compersion.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe some people do naturally feel that. It's not learned.
What do you think for you? Has that been something that you say you wish you were more?
I don't think it was a learned thing. I think it happened and I had a word to identify it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a natural thing when you're going through non-monogamy and you're in a space where you love somebody so much, you want to see them happy. And so I don't know that I ever sat down and was like, I need to learn compersion.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. How much of that do you think is just exposure to this many, many times and eventually it happened? Or how much of this was
I think it was connecting with people? Mm-hmm. It's not a learned, to me, it's not a thing I need to educate myself on. It's something that comes as a byproduct of connecting with people.
One of the things I often talk about is the fact that when someone is struggling with insecurity, as an example, when you're imagining your partner playing with someone, it's the most horrific phantom you can create. When it really happens, you've met this real human being and you've established some kind of connection with that real human being. So it's a lot easier to develop compersion with a real person being involved rather than I'm imagining it. And so therefore I'm imagining a younger, bigger boobed, whatever the thing is. One of the things I think many people can relate to compersion about, oh, I love how my wife has learned how to do this thing, or she's getting this praise at work. Well, what's the difference? The difference is you don't feel insecurities about her work thing, but you probably do. Most of us do have insecurities about our sexuality. So that's where you might have the compersion, but it's just being drowned out by jealousy. Yeah. Someone that I know very closely really struggled with the jealousy, but boy, when she felt good about herself, there was the compersion.
Yeah. Yeah.
April, going back to something you said, at least I think for me, my ability to experience conversion has been
Conversion.
What did I say?
Conversion.
Compersion band.
That was my religious
conversion. That's right.
My compersion has been a process for me. It has been like this thinking through things and working through logically where I wanted to be, but it didn't happen for me naturally, I don't think. But for you, it sounds like you were saying that the times it has happened, it's been more of just a natural outpouring of the moment, but not necessarily something you worked on.
We did an episode with Dr. Shannon Chavez talking about jealousy and compersion. And I think I said in that episode, I'm not going to force myself to feel compersion. Well, that's not my end goal, is not to feel compersion.
I don't think you can force yourself to feel it anyway.
Like I'm not, because at that time we had some friends who were kind of forcing their hand, like, I want to enjoy my partner doing this, so we're just going to keep doing it and keep doing it, keep doing it. And it caused so much pain and chaos. And I'm like, nope, I am not doing that. Yeah. I will do what I'm comfortable with. And when I'm comfortable, if it happens, but it wasn't something that I was like, okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. It was just, like I said, a byproduct of the connection and the security I felt and the love and all of the things.
So when it happened for you, in some sense, it was kind of a bit of a surprise in the moment, like you didn't expect.
Well, I didn't realize until afterwards when we were talking about it. And you were like, did that bother you? I was like, no, I actually really enjoyed watching that.
And Roderick, for you, same thing. It's not something you worked yourself into. It was something you just had.
So when the partner that together we discovered all of this, when we first got together before we heard of the lifestyle, just in pillow talk, there had been talk about things. I have a really good imagination. And so I thought about it. I was like, nope, not ready for that. Too insecure.
Yeah.
Like I knew right away, no, I'm too insecure. I feel too threatened by other people. Well, the more our relationship went on and the more she convinced me that I was making her happy, especially in those ways. So I started to learn I'm pretty good at this. Then I wish I could even point to when it happened, but I started listening to these lifestyle podcasts, and that's a lot of it for me. Listening to the podcast, started understanding how the process worked, and I started connecting with these how their relationships were changing. And not only was I hearing it, I understood it. Like mathematically, I could see this causes this, which leads to this. It made sense to me. The formula added up. So all of a sudden it's like, yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that.
I love that you build that up, bring that up about the formula adding up. Because that's a great way that it works in my head too. In El Salvador, one of our guests mentioned, they phrased it this way. They said, I need to know where the road's at and where the ditch is at. And I've never felt like there was a better explanation for at least what my brain is trying to accomplish. I want to know what April is and is not comfortable with in every moment, or I don't feel comfortable.
Right. But I guess that's where you're very binary, right?
The binary thing, yep.
Because I sometimes am like, well, I'm not sure until I get there. Like, I don't know until I'm in the situation.
Yep.
How can I tell you right now what's black and what's white when I'm not even there? It could be rainbow.
And it could change.
And it could change, right.
But that's terrifying to somebody who loves their partner and doesn't ever want to hurt them.
Exactly.
Right.
We want those rules to protect us, but they really can't.
Right.
Yeah.
We want them, but
Yeah.
they really can't.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's something I've been pressuring really for years. Like, give me the fucking rules.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to work around them.
Right.
I'm not trying to
I
hurt.
just want to know.
I'm not trying
want
to
that guarantee.
Yeah.
I'm not
like,
trying
I
to-
want that for you too. I also want that for me.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a loophole. I'm not looking to get around things. I just want to know, where am I safe? Where are you comfortable? So that when, at the end of the day, we're hugging and happy. But it's like a monogamous relationship. You don't care what rules you have in place. You never, like you say, you never really have that guarantee.
Because everything that works for us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm in a friends with benefits situation right now. And because I'm me, which means I don't know how to do that. I'm a very intimate person. I'm an intimacy hound. So I'm like, look, I apologize. I'm going to be me.
Right.
So we have to keep checking in. Do we understand where we are? And we're about to go to a hotel takeover in Tucson. And we've already talked about, how do you feel? Because this is what I'm looking. And I already know we're going to talk about it again.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about it that day. Because one of the things for me, because that's how I've always been, but because of listening to all these podcasts and learning all this stuff, I've gotten myself used to the idea of, you can't do that. You have to just, every moment is its own moment, and you've got to reassess, check in at the best.
Yeah.
With April as the not neurodivergent person in this group, or less neurodivergent, what has been the hardest part for you in the lifestyle dealing with me?
I mean, honest to God, nothing really is difficult to deal with. When I look at what some other people have had to deal with, I'm like, I got it easy. And that's one of the beautiful things I think about it, is you are very direct and very communicative, and you want to understand. And so maybe that's the reason why we do over communicate so much. Would not communicate this much on my own. It's mostly prompted because of you. In the questions, you're constantly asking question after question after question, which I love, because a lot of times I hadn't thought about those.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about the answer. And I can see, had we not talked about it, we would have walked into a minefield.
I wasn't asking that question in order to get all those compliments, but I'll take them. I'll take them. I do want to finish with this. Roderick, I think people, if they don't have any experience with people who are neurodivergent, might think, well, I'm never going to be interested in somebody like that. because maybe they've watched what's that show?
Yes, Love on the Spectrum.
Love on the Spectrum, and thought, what would you say to people who are worried? I don't think I'd ever want to play with somebody neurodivergent. I don't think I'd ever want to play with somebody that was autistic, or I'm autistic and I don't think anybody would ever be interested in me.
Which is probably
I
more
think
likely.
I think that's probably the better question, because if somebody's like, I don't want to play with someone because they're on the spectrum, they're assholes and they shouldn't be.
Some of the reason that I embrace my costumes that I do is because I'm literally making a statement where I'm saying, if this turns you off, great. I have announced who I am, so there won't be any surprises. Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, I don't even know what that means. It's not like I don't identify as bisexual or anything, but I'm like, look, I'm here to have fun and not judge anyone for their sexuality. I'm here to be very embracing of everyone and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, if that's uncomfortable for you, this isn't going to work because I can't pretend to be otherwise.
Which is also an advantage.
Yeah, because you're just here. I've announced myself.
Because one of the problems I think non-neurodivergent people suffer from is they're so good at being who they're not that they can create an illusion that you have to work through and figure out, maybe this person isn't who I initially thought they were. And that is a lot of times harder for people that are much more transparent.
I think that can happen with neurodivergent or not. I mean, there's people who are neurodivergent who will mask so that they can have the appearance of being
that's
somebody or
kind of
fitting in.
About a lot of my own stuff.
Right.
Where I've realized certain things I do are trauma responses.
Right.
So I'm trying to
Break
find,
those down.
who am I then really?
Yeah.
Do you think you mask who you really are?
I think just in the last few weeks, there are things that I do where I'm like, I'm not really being honest here, So that's, I think, less about autism and more about trauma. But I have to admit, there's been a lot of things that
which affects everybody.
Yeah. But, there's some Venn diagram. Well, there's a lot of things about autism. Like I started to wonder at one point, did trauma create the autism? Like, is autism part of how my brain responded to trauma, even as an infant? I don't know, and I'm not going to get into that. It doesn't answer any questions, but I'm just saying, So I have recently learned, here I am. Like, I have a reputation for being super authentic. And I'm like, wow, there's parts of me that, that's been me doing everything I can to not deal with this. And here, let me just show you this for now so we don't have to deal with this,
Because I think it's one of the common things with neurodivergent people is that they learn to mask because their natural responses aren't always
well received, socially accepted.
And so they learn, they sort of learn the script, so to speak. And so that instead of being completely authentic, they're playing the script they think they need to abide by. Do you think you struggle with that, April? Masking?
In different ways, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a part of, like you said, a trauma response. When you are raised a certain way, you put on a face that you're always happy, or you're this kind of person, or you're this kind of person. And you kind of sacrifice who you really are so that people think you have your shit together.
And then on top of that, society in general just plain encourages that.
Right.
Again, one of the aspects of my personality that is very intentional. Well, it comes out initially because I'm autistic and I don't know how to filter things. So I just talk about everything. But there's a certain amount of it that I'm like, and I'm going to keep doing that because we're all humans. We all have bodily fluids. We all have sex. We all do. Why are we supposed to hide all this stuff?
Right.
What sense does that make? So I'm very kind of angry about it. We're going to talk about bowel movements instead. Because why are we not?
I'm angry about it too.
You probably shouldn't do both of those.
Not at the same time, necessarily. But
some people are into that.
It really bugs me how much society encourages us to be ashamed of things we all experience.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I hope that it's been helpful to people. I think we should end on assuming we all agree that if you are neurodivergent in any way, that doesn't mean that you are stuck with monogamy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the right way of phrasing that, but
I think there's a community for everyone.
Yeah. There are people that are neurodivergent, and maybe us. You are for sure been diagnosed.
And I really think more so. I think neurodivergent people
are more likely to be very welcomed, at least in the kind of what we call the social swinging, or, the people that are really into the intimate connections that just happen to also include sex sometimes,
Right.
versus DTF swingers. That's a different type of community. Polyamory, that's a different kind of community. So much of what I'm talking about is specifically, no, this is the community I identify with most. And I feel like there is especially, and the polyamorous community, lots of neurodivergence. So,
and there's like you said, there's so many different communities. So if you're somebody who's on the spectrum that does have a lot of sensory issues and they don't want to go to the loud parties and stuff like that, there are events that aren't that. We've done events like that aren't loud. It's connection focused. It's quieter, more retreat style.
Yeah, a lot of our events are.
So don't be disheartened. You might not find it right away, or you might not find your tribe right away. But if you do want to pursue non-monogamy, there is a tribe out there for you.
Yeah. Apparently, I might have autism, but I have this lovely young 47-year-old woman who loves me. So if you have some issues, you're going to still be just fine. It may be a learning curve, but you're going to be very successful.
Yeah. No, I remember when I first met you guys, when I came to do the interview and we started talking right away. I was like, oh, yeah. I was talking about.
I recognize my people.
Yep. And then I think you came in and came up about autism, and you were like, oh, hell yeah.
But I should admit that my diagnosis came from a road trip to Wisconsin.
My 11-year-old son diagnosed.
Yeah.
But again,
from an online test while I was driving.
If listening to chess games, listening to the audio of a chess game, and there were signs.
The way that I can't remember if I told you, the way that I found out was because I was on a road trip. Imagine that. And I'm driving down the road and I start thinking about Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. Drax is an autism hero because he takes everything literally.
Right.
That's one of the things.
Oh, yeah.
I've never quite thought about that way, like taking everything literally, But I realized, oh, wait, something that's similar to that is I trust everything you tell me.
Yeah.
I believe everything you tell me.
Scott's pretty bad about that.
I believe everything if you tell me one thing and you're doing something else, my brain doesn't say, oh, he's lying. My brain just goes, something is confusing me.
Yeah.
Because he's telling me.
But I'm the same way, but I actually like it.
Me too.
I think that
I love it.
Sometimes I get burned because I think the best of people.
Does?
But I'd rather get burned occasionally thinking the best of people than to constantly live assuming the worst.
Assuming the worst.
And people sometimes see all these little things. They go, he just did that. I bet that means X, Y, and Z. And that, to me, is a shitty way to live.
So I always say, if I hear or read something and it can be taken in a positive light or a negative light, and you do not know for certain which one, why on earth would I assume the negative? and exactly what you just said. I always say, I would rather, instead of being a little bit miserable and then, oh, yeah, see, it was bad, like most people, I'd rather be obliviously happy and then, oh, shit, that was disappointing. All right, go back to...
What is it you call me? Obliviously something?
It's cute. Blissfully oblivious.
I definitely idealize the world. You asked me about how has it impacted how I see like these events and the people, lifestyle and stuff. And I know I'm guilty of idealizing. The first time my former partner and I ever went to a resort, on like the fifth night, off to the side watching, they have the entertainment. And this particular night, there was a band and all these couples were dancing, slow dancing. This was a slow dance. And I'm watching them. And I'm just, tears are streaming because I'm just like, I can't handle any more joy. Like I was so overwhelmed with feeling all this love. And some of them couples could have been out there going, I'm going to, who knows? But I just, so for me, it's back to kind of what you were saying. I just see everything very happy.
Well, I want to close it out. I think the important thing to end this on, this has been a great conversation. If anybody takes anything from this episode, take this. It's that neurodivergent people are better in bed.
Yeah.
They have huge cocks.
I have references. I just want you to know I have references.
And if you want to find out, we have one spot left for holidays, and Rod will be there.
I will be there with my butt.
What's his name?
Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad we get to spend some time with you. And for everybody else, remember to never stop playing.